Hi there, I'm Peter Millard, and in the 10-minute workshop this week we'll be using a pair of painted side tables as a lens to consider arrogance and humility, self-regulation, quality control and standards. It's coming up next. So yes, fairly obviously we are still in full spray booth mode here, so there's not, not an awful lot I can do but show you some spraying. I've got these little side tables to do. They are sort of ongoing and a slightly painful project, and you'll see a little bit more of them later in this video. There will be a full build video on these, but I do need to get them finished first, of course. I had a video out earlier in the week about sort of quality control with regard to those supermarket saws and how, you know, the quality is a little bit hit and miss with them, and by and large they're using customers as the quality control mechanism. They just make them, ship them off to customers, and you know, it's up to the customers to return them or not, if they work or not. And it occurred to me that the quality control for us is very much down to, I'm talking about us like self-employed carpenter, cabinet makers, whatever you want to call us, is very much down to us. It's absolutely of our own doing. Obviously there are customer expectations that need to be met, and if sometimes those customer expectations aren't met, then you'll need to put things right, but it's very much down to me to set the standards that I think those customers are expecting me to meet. There's no foreman coming around with a clipboard checking the quality of my joints just as well. There's nobody else involved in the process. That these tables are through my interior designers, so obviously I know the standards that they expect me to work to, because obviously they know the standards that their clients expect them to work to, and that expectation is pretty high. So I've been chatting on and off with a young guy, carpenter, cabinet maker. I won't name him fully, let's call him James. He's given me a call a couple of times. We've swapped a few messages and things. He's about to give up his full-time job and go out on his own, so it's quite an exciting time. It's all new and you know, different and exciting. We remember what that was like. He put a tweet out the other day. I'm going to read this out now. He was slightly taken aback by the level of support that people have given him. Well, you know, I think we all like to see younger people getting on and doing well for themselves. He says, "Thank you, really appreciate the good wishes. I really do believe in the quality of my work and the service I offer." Then he goes on to say, "That sounds terribly arrogant, but I'm so excited to build a reputation based on this quality." I replied to him, I said, "That's not arrogance, that's honesty. If you can be honest about knowing when something you've done isn't good enough, then it's equally honest to acknowledge the quality of the work that you do and the service that you provide." I absolutely believe that. You know, as I said earlier, nobody is coming after us with a clipboard, no foreman checking that we're doing the right thing. I knew let's go back in time a little bit. When I started building these tables, I thought when I put them together, and I've built loads of these, but I've never sprayed one before. When I finished building it, I thought that would just be a case, and I've felt this for all of them previously as well, and just give that to the sprayers and they do their thing and, you know, get a nice finish on it, and I'm making their job easier by giving them basically a pre-prepared, pretty much ready to spray finished article. And then I started priming these. I recorded a little bit of video about this before. I'm going to run that now. Apologies to my Patreon supporters, you've seen this already. But let's run that now, and well, I'll catch you in a minute. So I'm just in on a Saturday, just doing a little bit of prep work. I've made loads of these little tables, but these are actually the first ones I've had to spray, and I've got a whole new appreciation for the spraying guys, for the amount of prep work that we need to do for these. It's pretty spectacular. You can probably see just around here, there's a very faint, ever so faint line
no matter how well I thought I was prepping these, until you actually get paint on there, you've got to get primer after primer after primer and rub each layer down really carefully. You can just see a very faint line between the core of the sandwich of the tabletop and the skin. It's probably a little bit more easy to see down here on this one. But once you've rubbed that back, you actually get a really super smooth, super fine finish, until of course you put another layer of paint on it, and then the process starts again. And you do this over and over and over until you get this flawless, perfect finish. Fortunately, these aren't going to be a high gloss. I really feel for the guys who had to prep all those other tables of mine for a high gloss finish, because the level of constant and continuous improvement with the sanding that they must do for the prep for that fine finish is extraordinary.
So yeah, that was a bit of an eye-opener to discover that, you know, what I thought, I was genuinely thought that I was doing a really good job there, and it turns out, and maybe it was, but it turns out it was nowhere near good enough for the guys who were doing the spraying, who were doing the finishing. I say that was a real eye-opener for me, because I thought I was doing a solid job, not doing their job for them, but certainly getting it so that they could just put it in and spray it. And that was clearly a long way from the truth. And it's making me rethink about how I construct these as well, because I don't know if I'm going to do any more of these, but if I do, I'll certainly be thinking about making them in a different way. This job's actually been pretty problematic. I recorded another little snippet of video last night, and I'll run that now as well. So from the department of You Couldn't Make It Up, had a knock on my door about 4:45, what's that, about half an hour ago, 25 minutes ago. Building manager, oh Peter, sorry, I forgot about you. We've got an electrician in doing some work, half the building hasn't got power at the moment. You probably didn't notice because you have. In order to fix it, they're going to have to shut the power off, hopefully only for about 20 minutes or half an hour. Okay, so that's fine. Just about finished the sanding, the prepping that I'm doing on this spraying. I've got a cordless grey coat, I'll be fine. 5 o'clock on the dot, poof, all the lights go out. Didn't think of that. Halfway through the spraying, which is turning into a nightmare, I've got to say. I'm on the verge of giving up with this. So yes, all the lights are off, and I'm recording this by torchlight. Yeah, that's from the Couldn't Make It Up department. And then I did, and I wasn't feeling great last night. This has been a bit of a roller coaster. And then I did another one this morning. So we'll run that one now as well. So next morning, power's back on, yay. And the finish on this is actually really nice, much better than I was expecting it to be after yesterday's kind of end of the day. So it's not perfect, still needs some work, but definitely worth pursuing with, because it really is. It's come up really, really nice. So yeah, not perfect, still needs some work, pretty much sums it up. These tables are out of step, because obviously in the dark, I couldn't do much more to them both last night. So the other ones had an extra coat of paint. They both had another coat of paint this morning, about 8 o'clock, and that's 8, 9, 10, 12. So coming up to 7 hours ago, so I'm starting to rub these back gently. I'm thinking about getting another coat of paint on them, which can dry overnight. So this one has had a coat of paint less than the other one. And it's pretty clear, even though it looked pretty decent. When you start sanding it, when you start rubbing it back, you can see where the extra little fillets that make up the leg section are showing through, and it's pretty clear that isn't good enough. That needs matting off so that it's nice and flush, then another coat of paint on it, then matting off again. And it's a slow, laborious process. There's no shortcut to it. I suppose I could do it with a sander, but I'm a bit careful about going through all the layers of paint and getting through to the primer again. Again, I probably should have used a tinted primer, but you use what you got. In fact, I am confident though that once I've done that on this one, it'll come up really well. In fact, let's go and have a quick look at the other one in the other room, which has had a third coat of paint on it. and is one stage further along than this one. So yeah, sorry, in the other room the colour's going to be all over the place, I'm sorry. But this one's had the third coat of paint and obviously an extra rubbing down. This one is so much better. It's a much smoother finish all around, on the shelves, on the edges, much cleaner to the touch, and much cleaner to look at. It's still going to get another rubbing down and another coat of paint, and I know when that's done it'll come up really nicely, but it's much better and streets ahead of the other one. So there's still a fair bit of work to do on this one before it approaches the standards of the other one, but a bit more sanding and a bit more of this, and we'll get there pretty soon, and then we can do the same round of sanding and spraying again just to raise them up. It may even need another one after that before we can get to the kind of standards that I know my clients are expecting of me. At the end of it, we will have a really nice finish on those, and that's not me being arrogant in saying that. That's just me being honest and secure in the fact that I know I'll be meeting my clients' expectations, because I know what my clients are expecting of me to produce for them. That's it for this week though. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget there will be a full build video on these tables coming out in future, and the best way not to miss one of my future videos is to subscribe to the channel, and if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell. Then you'll be notified whenever I put up something new, or whenever YouTube decides to tell you about it, to be perfectly honest, because it's a little bit flaky. Take a minute to check out the contents of the video description box down below. There's all kinds of handy dandy links to all manner of useful bits and pieces down there, including the stuff I use in this video, as well as links to supporting the channel through Patreon or PayPal. And I want to take a minute just to thank everyone who provides their support either through the Patreon process or through one-off or recurring direct donations. You are quite literally helping to keep the lights on here, and you saw earlier on in the video what happens when the lights go off. But that is it for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.